Welcome to ECR Talks. Once again, we bring to you a very interesting subject today in Britain. By the 28th of January 2025, Britain will be heading to another general election. And there's a subject that cannot be avoided, which is basically Brexit, the hard or soft Brexit. What is your choice? Now, every opinion expressed here is my own opinion based on research that I've done. Feel free to agree or disagree with me. But this is an open dialogue to help all of us to learn more about a subject that is unavoidable, which is the subject of Brexit. And so we're going to delve into this and definitely do add your comments and contributions. Your opinion is well mattered. It can help for all of us to learn much about this subject that affects us as a people in a nation and also the entire nation of Britain. Now, before we can really get into this this Brexit issue, this is going to be a few episodes, giving the background of the EU, how we got into it, how we got out of it, and obviously the situation that confronts us as a people and also our economy and living standards today. And so I will start off by going into a bit of the history of the EU, the part that Britain has played in it, and obviously going forward us exiting the EU on the 23rd of June 2016, and what the implications has been for us up until now, and also the kind of future that we are heading into. I think in recent times there's been a few debates on TV, on national TV, about where we want to go, and even the Windsor Framework that came into being on the 23rd of February 2023 as a way of finding softer lines in re-establishing some kind of a decent relationship with the European Union. Now, this Brexit matter has probably been one will say, most embarrassing situations for the government of this day, being the Tory government, because since 2016 we have had 5 British prime ministers basically, and also 2 general elections within 5 years, all happening within the Tory party. So this really goes on to show how maybe we've not handled this matter very well. Now, Brexit actually happened on the 23rd of June 2016, when a vote of 51.8% for those who were in favor of exiting, basically the outs, exiting the EU, against the 48% of those who were in favor of remaining. One thing that we have to be clear about, for example, if we were to base it on the US Constitution, in the United States, for any constitutional amendment to happen, which I think is equally an important matter to the nation as Brexit was to Great Britain or the United Kingdom, you need to have 2/3 of the House of Representatives and also 2/3 of the Senate. And for it to basically to solidify, basically for a constitutional change, you will need 3/4 of the legislature to support this change, obviously for it to basically come into effect as a constitutional amendment. I think that the Brexit was equally an important matter, which, assuming that it had happened in the US, this is the criteria or the level of requirement that would have been needed for a change to happen. And so when you have a situation that you've had a Brexit that is based on a 51.8% vote to leave, and basically this being used as the basis for the change, it is definitely questionable because the subject of Brexit was a serious subject. And so this is where some people are still of the opinion that greater ties with the European Union can only be a beneficial thing to this country rather than completely breaking ties with the EU. But to go forward, I will give some sort of background. So basically, in 1957, we had the establishment of the European Economic Community Area, being the EEC, which was established in 1957, Britain being a member of it. Come, say, September 1992, we had a problem with the ERM, the European Exchange Rate Mechanism. And so the then Chancellor of the Exchequer, Mr. Norman Lamont, had to basically take Britain out of the European Exchange Rate Mechanism, which was quite devastating and such an economic shock for the United Kingdom. But going forward, basically looking at things like the end of the Cold War, the reunification of Eastern and Western Germany, and general, basically, globalization ideology, it was only common sense for the establishment of the current EU, which was established under the Maastricht Treaty in 1992 and actually did take effect in November 1993. Now, the original members of the European Union, basically the members that established the Union, were 12 member nations, which I will list as Belgium, Denmark, France, Greece, Ireland, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Portugal, Spain, United Kingdom, and Germany. So these were the original founding members of the European Union under the Maastricht Treaty of 1992, which took effect November 1993. And so, as you may be aware, Britain was part of the founding members. Today, the size of the European Union is actually double in its membership to a membership of 27 member nations, now obviously excluding the United Kingdom. So this union was established basically to have this sort of economic and political unity amongst the nations, also to establish that free movement of people, goods and services, having a common defense and security policy, a legal framework, and possibly also a judiciary system. So you were then looking at basically a federal Europe, with also one of the most important features or establishments within the EU was the single European currency, which was basically the birth of the euro. And so these were the main driving force behind the establishment of the union, to in effect have an economy that could easily rival the United States, to rival Russia, and also to rival China. So this was the main basis for the establishment of the EU. And so, come 2016, obviously with the establishment of the EU, there was always the group of people that were very much interested in having their own sovereignty, or sort of having more national power than basically giving power to the European Union. And then there were others, a second group of people that actually preferred a much closer integration as a way of establishing a power bloc, obviously to rival all these other bigger economies. So come 2015, the then Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Mr. David Cameron, the pressure had mounted so much that those that were basically in favor of the European Union being the free movement of goods and services, common defense and security policy, single currency, which we were never really a part of. We always held our British pound, and also the legal framework. It got to a point where this group of people basically come completely against the group of people that favored UK sovereignty, that favored our own basically judicial and legal systems, and basically taking full control of our own economy. I guess there was that issue where probably the free movement of the people, goods, I wouldn't even say more of the goods and services, but the free movement of people had reached a point where, UK may have been struggling, i.e. in terms of its local amenities, i.e. to do with the schools, the NHS, the transport system, traffic on roads, foreign crime. There were so many issues that was ongoing at the time, which then, when that argument came, that question was then asked if the British people wanted to leave the European Union. And obviously immigration and national sovereignty, and also the idea that we could do economically better outside the EU, then became the driving force for those who campaigned fiercely for Britain to leave the EU. Obviously, this was something that had never been done before, and as I said before, if this had happened in say the United States, a 51.8% wouldn't have passed for that change to happen. It would have been 2/3 of the houses of representatives and also the Senate, and also 3/4 of the legislature, of the state legislature. That should have actually happened for this to actually pass. But for some reason, in the UK, it was just like whoever passes 50%, and it was a 51%. And so this created a huge divide amongst the people of this nation. And even when you came down to say places like London, which has a huge economic power within the United Kingdom, those who wanted to remain, there were huge numbers of people that wanted to remain. And so this created such a big problem. Now, post-Brexit, so the Brexit, obviously we had Cameron go, then we had Theresa May come, then we had Boris Johnson come in, then we have Liz Truss, and now we have Rishi Sunak, all of the Tory party. Within that time, we've also had 2 general elections. And so that has been a very challenging and rather embarrassing situation for the nation. However, in recent times, we seem to have hit a fairly steady course. But then still, the question is being asked if it is important for Britain to have good ties with the European Union as a way of enhancing our economic, political, and defense relations. That question is not going to go away, and it's going to be one of the key arguments to come in the next 15 months when Britain heads to the ballot box again on the 28th of January 2025. Many people believe that based on the drop in the standards of living amongst Brits, we have this data here. Research has shown that the living standards of British people have dropped by 5.5%. That obviously it actually means that Brits would have been better off basically in their living standards 5.5% above the level that we are on today. So this is definitely a big subject, and this is why the question is being raised. That is, what is your choice? Would you prefer a hard or a soft Brexit? As it is, when the deals were originally negotiated, the British people, or under the leadership of Boris Johnson, the hard Brexit was the one that was applied. And that today has led to a situation where we've had a drop in the living standards. We've had labor shortages. We've had shortages in goods and services, high prices, high inflation rates, higher interest rates, which has been very devastating for mortgage owners. The list goes on. There has been so many issues, detrimental issues, and now the question is being asked, was it wise enough for us to take that course? Now, the group of people, obviously the Brexiteers, they are deemed to be the optimist, and then obviously the Remainers are seen as the pessimist. And obviously the Brexiteers were of the opinion that British is the 5th largest economy, that Britain could do very well on its own, that we will have some short-term economic shocks, and in the long term things will smoothen out and Britain is going to get better. And the obviously Remainers are also of the opinion that Britain can do a lot better within the union, and that getting out is not going to do this country any good. As it stands at the moment, it seems the pessimists they have it in the sense that our living standards have dropped by 5.5%. We've had shortages in labor supply. We have shortages in goods and services. We have higher prices. We have higher interest rates, and the economy has not grown as much as it was anticipated. Now, obviously, there was that big argument about the Brexiteers on immigration being one of the main problems. However, it seems to me that the immigration numbers, statistics, does show that it has not dropped, that you're just basically having immigration from elsewhere into the UK rather than from the old European Union. Now, the argument here is that, for example, migration from within the EU coming into Britain was probably more costly for Britain, in the sense that now the migration that is coming in are mainly coming in through the UK skilled worker visa scheme, of which analysts believe that the government have been making a whole lot of money or earning a lot of cash from this type of migration, in the sense that these people coming in from these other places are paying for their higher visa fees, which is obviously in the thousands of pounds, and also the NHS surcharges. And so they think that this migration is more beneficial to this nation than what they were getting from the European Union. So this is an argument from the Brexiteers, that they think that this move is better than before. Probably other issues here will be also on matters of legislation, where laws are being changed left, right, center, without basically much consultation, or it's not really passing that scrutiny that it would have been subjected to, assuming that this country was still within the European Union. And so this subject is just simply not going to get away. Now, one of the other issues are also issues to do with British travelers in basically going into basically work or live in the EU, or even going on holidays. So previously, the privileges that we had was that you could literally just pick up your passport, jump on the Eurostar, you are in Europe, or if you chose to fly, you could do that. Your passport was not stamped. You could stay within any of the 27 European Union member nations without any restrictions, do your business, do whatever you wanted to do, come back as and when you wanted. And all this was such a privilege for the British people. Now, since Brexit, basically after September 2020, and probably further in January 2021, when obviously Brexit really took effect, now you are not able to do that again anymore. So British people are now going into the EU as third member nations. Therefore, your passport will be stamped. When you get there, you are placed in a queue as a third member nation, not a European member nation. Your passport is stamped. You're given restricted time. So now they have that process where you go in for 90 days, back to the UK, 90 days, back into the UK, the next 90 days, and then back to the UK. So you've got 180 days in, 180 days out. But the way that is taken on the basis of, say you get in there at 1st January, you have to be out of the EU by the 30th of March, before the 30th of March. Then you have to stay outside the EU for 3 months, and then you can re-enter by 30th June, by which you can then stay till September, the end of September, and then you have to come back. And so, to go back there again after the 31st of December. And so this is the new procedure. We also have the European Union Agency. This is the agency that holds the database of, basically, this is being established, taking effect from June 2024. They are basically going to be taking biometric facial scan and fingerprinting for, obviously, non-EU member nations, that is Britain. And so if you're going into the EU after June 2024, then you are going to be having that fingerprint and also the biometric facial scan. This is being done under the EES, being the entry-exit systems, which is the database being held by the European Union Agency. And so once this takes effect, this is going to be the new procedure, whereby once this is done and you enter the zone, then you are really obliged to come out before that 90 days, stay outside for 90 days, re-enter once again and stay there, and obviously exit before the night. So you've got to basically follow this 180 days in, 180 days out. If you do miss it, because this is all obviously computerized, system will pick you up and you may not be able to enter this EU zone if you breach this requirement. Then you also have issues about if you intend to basically live and work within EU, then you have to follow the procedure. You need your enhanced DBS checks and so many other things. You need a confirmation of a job in these countries before you can actually go to live there. And if you also have to do business, that is also another story. And so the issue about having the soft or hard Brexit, basically it is to do with the single market and also the customs union. And so those that are in favor of a softer Brexit prefers that Britain basically stays in the single market or the customs union or both. Basically, Britain staying in the customs union and also the single market. And then those that are obviously for hard Brexit are those that are advocating that Britain doesn't need any of this single market or the customs union, that they should completely break tie with the EU and basically be completely independent. I mean, it is a great idea for any nation to fight for its sovereignty, its own legal powers, and its judiciary powers. However, one must say that we are, obviously, we were Europeans before Brexit, and therefore it is important to be in that group, bigger group, to also have that influence where things like defense matters are concerned, where security matters are concerned, where policing is concerned, movement of goods and services. So basically, with the issue of immigration, there could have been some sort of a procedure put in place to basically have a way of maybe controlling the situation a bit. I mean, it's very common in the European nations. For example, if you were to, as a member of the EU, if you wanted to live in Germany to work there, you would have had to probably have to learn the language, the German language, to be able to get by. And you have to attend other mandatory courses to basically integrate. That is, if you intend to live there after that 90 days, then all these things, you may have to probably have had a job or have to have somebody that is supporting you to live in those countries. Even though obviously the idea is that you have that free movement, but certain procedures needed to be in place. And I think that Britain could have adopted a similar kind of a system, which then restricts somehow the numbers that were probably coming in, which was used as one of the major ideas of basically fighting for this Brexit. And so we will then at some stage go into the details, obviously in the next episode, to look at what being in the common market means. Obviously what being in the single market also means. We will also be delving a little bit deeper into this Windsor framework, which was established on the 23rd of February 2023. This is to do with matters about Northern Ireland and how obviously their position in the United Kingdom and also in the EU. So these, in the next episode, we will try to delve a little bit deeper into it to find out what it means, what the Windsor framework actually means, and how that affects this country. Now, as I said, everything said here is my own opinion based on the research that I've done, choose to agree or disagree with me, but I'm very much interested to hear what you have to say. So do put your ideas in the comment section. Add your comments and your contributions. Basically share the video, and let's basically have this open dialogue where we can all learn from one another, because this subject is just not going to go away. In the next episode as well, I will be delving into obviously the current membership of the EU. Also, we will be looking at like the Schengen zone, what it means, because obviously it was obvious that when the Brexit was being done, the then Prime Minister Boris Johnson did talk about the Norwegian style, or the Norwegian kind of agreement with the EU. So there are other forms where you have some sort of relationship with the EU, and that actually plays into the Schengen zone membership. And so in the next episode, we will endeavor to delve a little bit deeper into those areas. And so I am very much interested in hearing from you what you think about this situation of a hard and soft Brexit, and also considering that the vote was just a 51.8%, which under the US, this wouldn't have passed for a constitutional amendment. I think this subject is such a big subject, this Brexit was such a big issue for this nation, that a 51.8% shouldn't have passed for that change to happen. I mean, I'm basically speaking from the point of neither being basically a Brexiteer or a Remainer, but it's just pure requirements or ways that changes occur, important matters occur within a nation through its constitution, and on this case being a referendum. And so 51.8% shouldn't have passed. Go and check yourself for the changes or the vote that is required for US constitutional amendments, and that will give you a fair idea of what is needed for such a big change within a nation. And this is probably one of the main contributing factors of creating such a huge divide within a nation on a particular subject. And so I hope you found this video useful. Remember to share its content, like, add your comments and contributions. Until our next episode, thank you for watching EEC Art Tours. Thank you.